eventually we're not receiving the benefits that we want to receive. Does that make some sense to you?
Yeah.
And so I would like to recommend that we learn to use the essential oils differently. When we have optimal wellness, that is the time to get into our daily health routines. That's the time to build resiliency with essential oils. That's the time to get up and say, I use balance on the bottom of my feet. I put frankincense under my tongue. I put lemon in my water. I took my DDR Prime capsule. I took my On Guard capsule to enhance my immunity throughout the day. I'm doing all of my lifelong vitality. I took the Terrazyme. I took the PB Assist. And I'm going through it. It's time for me to do a cleanse, so now I'm doing the GX Assist. I'm going through that whole process too. That's the time to build resiliency. When we are not feeling well, that's the time to have what I would describe as focused usage. Don't try to do everything. One of the biggest issues that I find is people will come to me and I'll ask them always, what have you been doing? And I'll get a litany of 20 or 30 different essential oils that they're trying. We are in an inverse relationship. You know, we've seen this in very focused research too. We've done a lot of cancer research in doTERRA. I can say that here because I'm not in the United States. We've done a lot of cancer research and are doing some currently. And one of the things that we have found is that even oils like frankincense, there is this inverse relationship. More is not always better. So this is what I'm going to hone in on with you, on how do I react and respond, and how do I find this opportunity to maximize the benefits that I'm going to receive. So let's move through these very quickly. Let's talk about methods of delivery. Now, I know that we can use the oils aromatically, we can use them topically, and for sake of being technical today, we'll say that we can use the oils internally and we can use them orally. It's not the same thing. Internal is when we put oils in a capsule, and orally would be like when we would put oils under the tongue. There is a difference there because they have some commonality, right? They all can become systemic regardless of which method you choose to use. And they also all can be localized. Now, I skipped over the slide a moment ago that was from William Shakespeare that said, experience is a jewel, and it had need be so, for it is often purchased at an infinite price. Even though today I'm going to talk about very specific models of use, you should be very comfortable with choosing your own model and have confidence in that because of the similarities that they all have one with another. But there is some differences between them. For example, aromatic is really good for mood and respiratory issues, using the oils aromatically. When we use the oils topically, the real value we have associated with that is that we can have targeted and very specific use. Using the oils internally in a capsule, this is very targeted and focused usage for the gastrointestinal tract and for the liver, to be honest with you. And when we use oils orally, like under the tongue, this is a very broad systemic model that we can see with the essential oils. So even though there's some similarities, there are some unique differences for each one. So choose which one works the very best for you. If we were to map that out, and if we were to look at it in the context of bioavailability, how accessible is the essential oil? And in the time of metabolism, it would graph out very differently. And you can start to see now visually the differences between each one of these models. Part of the reason I'm talking about this is because there are individuals who say you can only use them this way. But I'm trying to show and demonstrate to you that there would be some reasoning behind why I would want to use them topically or aromatically or internally. And so if we look at oral and internal use, you see that the oils very quickly are bioavailable. When we use an oil in one of those two methods, it becomes available to us very quickly. But the time of metabolism is also very quick. And so we have access to the oil quickly, but it's not very long lasting. Now we can go through secondary and tertiary metabolism, and that's a whole other discussion, and that carries its own benefit. But very fast acting, not long lasting, is what we would see with internal usage models. If we looked at dermal use or topical use, this one is really interesting. You can see that it's a little bit of a bell-shaped curve and then extends out. over this time of metabolism. Initially, we don't have a lot of bioavailability because the oil has to absorb within the tissues. But then it becomes bioavailable, and then we have a longer period of time for metabolism. So it's able to be utilized for a little bit longer. Look at aromatic use, inhalation. This is the one you just can't get wrong. You don't have a lot of bioavailability associated with this because when you diffuse an essential oil, you are diluting that essential oil into the air mass. And there's no way to really calculate and have that be a constant. So we have a reduced bioavailability, not because it's not available, but because we just don't have a high concentration of essential oil when we choose to diffuse them. But look at the value that's there. We can diffuse constantly, non-stop if we want to. As evidence of that, one of the in fact, well, not the very first, but one of the first studies we ever did in doTERRA was with Vanderbilt University. I can say that because I'm not in the United States. I can tell you that. We did a 5-year study with them. We diffused essential oils 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 5 straight years in their hospital. We didn't even have one adverse event. We had nothing but positive results. And part of the reason why is because we can have this constant exposure because we're never going to overwhelm ourselves because of this dilution model as we diffuse in the air. Does that make some sense to you a little bit? So let's go through this real quickly. The advantage of this is that we get several modes of absorption when we use the essential oils aromatically. Yes, we do get infiltration through the smaller finite structures of the lungs called the alveoli. This is where you do all the gas exchange for oxygen in your body. And we can do the same thing with some of the molecules from the essential oils. You can breathe in an oil, and we do find evidence that there is molecules of the essential oil in the blood almost immediately. The other area we have for absorption, and this is why it becomes so powerful, is that we can absorb the essential oils through the mucosa of the nasum or of the nose itself. And then lastly, there's a neurological stimulation, which we're all familiar with. We always say when we use essential oils aromatically, we're stimulating the limbic system of the body. We're stimulating the emotional centers of the body. It's much more than the emotional centers. Understand when you diffuse essential oils, you're stimulating the body as a whole. You're stimulating all of the neurochemistry of the body. You're stimulating the whole of the endocrine system, which is the whole of your hormonal system in the body. So don't underestimate something so simple as putting an essential oil in a diffuser or cupping your hands together and breathing in that aroma. Don't underestimate how powerful that is and how quick the response to that can be. So this is what I love about this. You just can't get it wrong. Now we talk about diffusing essential oils. We encourage you to do that, but we never tell you how to diffuse essential oils or what oils maybe you should look to diffuse or why you should diffuse essential oils. So I've just broken it into 3 easy categories for you. We should, aside from the obvious that we have respiratory issues, right? We should diffuse essential oils for rest, for mood, and for issues of immunity. And I've just chosen some of the basic oils that I like, kind of top on Dr. Hill's list for each one of those categories. For example, I really love cedarwood for rest. So you can choose your favorite, but when you diffuse essential oils, diffuse for one of those 3 purposes, and you'll greatly enhance the benefits that you're receiving from essential oils. Let's talk about internal use. Now, the real advantage for internal use is we can have a precise amount. One of the things we've done in doTERRA, for example, is we've given you pre-encapsulated essential oils. We give you the gel caps. You don't have all of the gel caps here, but I know that our team here is working on that, and we are back in the US as well to give you access to all of the products we have in doTERRA. A good example of that is like On Guard Plus. Here we have essential oils pre-encapsulated for you. So we get precise amount, we get precise delivery. It's really focused, a high concentration in gastrointestinal support. When we take oils in a capsule, we're going to give a lot of support to the digestive tract and the metabolic tract as a whole, and by that I mean the liver. And so it's a great method to use essential oils. It's one of my preferred methods to use the essential oils this way. And just because of how much I travel and how much I'm gone, they're flashing at me, I know, I'm almost done. So can I give you a recommendation for beginning to use essential oils? Now again, a reminder, I know many of you are probably using essential oils way outside of this scale because you've learned how your body reacts and responds. But for somebody who's just new, which each of us at one time or another are introducing, us included, are introducing people to the essential oils, this is a great starting point. I've broken it into adult and I've broken it into children. Now, I've not given specific age ranges for children. I will tell you I've used the oils in children for very young ages, and I've used them for people in the end of life. So I've used them in the neonatal care unit in the hospital, for example, and I've used them at end stage of life. I think oils are for everyone, but for younger children, they need much, much less. They respond and are resilient. That's one of the reasons I love using essential oils on children. In my home, when my grandkids come over, they'll lay on the floor and they'll put their feet up in the air and they'll ask for essential oils. They never come to me, by the way. They always go to grandma, which I'm happy about, because it's this great thing to watch them use the essential oils. So for an adult, internal, remember this is when we're putting oils in a capsule, 2 to 4 drops every 4 to 6 hours, or 12 to 24 drops maximum over a 24-hour period of time. This is a beginning point. This is a way to have people be in that zone where the amount of oil I'm using is being maximized by the benefits that I'm receiving. And for children, 1 to 2 drops or 3 to 12 drops maximum over a 24-hour period of time. Let's talk just real quickly, let's talk about topical use, because this is the one where there seems to be actually a lot of controversy. So I am not going to mean to offend anybody, but I'm going to give some pretty strong positional statements as to why we use oils topically and whether we should dilute or not dilute. So the advantage that we have with dermal use or topical use is an obvious one. If my elbow hurts, I can put the oil directly on my elbow. And so I can get, it's the only way I can use oils where I can have very targeted and very specific usage models. And that's why people like using them topically. Now, there's all the cosmetic usage of essential oils, which is just a whole other method, which again is a targeted use. And so think about using oils topically in that way. Now, in our video that I showed you, we talked about RIPT testing. We've tested doTERRA's oils. We are testing the remainder of doTERRA's oils at this point. We've tested about half of them. It's a long process we go through. But even with the very caustic oils like thyme and oregano and clove, we're not finding skin sensitivity. I think that speaks to the quality of the essential oil, but it also speaks to the sophistication of the usage that we as a group in doTERRA tend to have with the essential oils. Interesting, when you isolate chemistry, it's much more caustic. It's much more irritating to the body than when you have, like for example, in oregano we have phenols. Phenols can be very caustic when you isolate them, but in the context of the whole, like with oregano, it can be less irritating. Now when Corey first joined doTERRA, he had a little bit of a sore on his lip. And so he came and asked me what he should use. And so of course I told him he should use oregano. That would be a good thing to do. In my defense, I did not think he would actually go do it, but he did. Maybe that's why he didn't talk to me yesterday. That's probably why. So we can use the oils undiluted. Don't think that we always have to dilute, but there's some reasoning why we would want to do that. So let me talk with you about the structure of the skin real quickly. Now, just like in the other models, it's not just a singular model of absorption. Here's a good thing for you to key into. Absorption is how the essential oils move into the tissues. And penetration is how essential oils move through the tissues. Absorption of essential oils can happen on the skin in really 3 different places. One is through the stratum corneum. That's just that dead skin layer that you have on the surface of your skin. Give you an example, oregano on the bottom of your feet is not irritating. oregano around your eye is, because the stratum corneum